every generation is a group of people who stand out, and I've been fortunate in my years to have been through a couple of generations, the Joe and Charlies and the Chris Schroeders and the Ramers and Mark Houston. And I'm very proud to give you one of the standouts of the current generation who will be leading the generation for many years to come, God willing. Here's our friend, Terry F.
Thanks, Howard. I appreciate it. And thanks for the intro. Everyone doing service here. My name's Terry. I'm an alcoholic. Let's go to page 56. Sorry, I was a little rusty. I took a week off. I forgot about it. Forgot the format. All right. One night, when confined in a hospital, he was approached by an alcoholic who had known a spiritual experience. Our friend's gorge rose as he bitterly cried out, "If there is a God, he certainly hasn't done anything for me." But later, alone in his room, he asked himself this question: is it possible that all religious people I have known are wrong? While pondering the answer, he felt as though he lived in hell. Then, like a thunderbolt, a great thought came. It crowded out all else. Yeah, do you want me to read that next sentence or no?
Go right ahead. Why not?
Why not? Who are you to say there is no God? Yeah, like I said, my name's Terry. I'm an alcoholic. Uh, I got my kids dancing over there. I might get interrupted a little bit today. You guys truly want to understand step 3, have a child. You'll find out your life is not your own. Uh, this is a wonderful paragraph. I'm just so like blessed to be put in this position to talk about this because there's so many little nuggets just in this little paragraph that I could spend some time on. And I think I want to start out with, being confined in a hospital. And I spent a great deal amount of time in hospitals. And I see someone in this room who's actually in a hospital. I hope you're okay. Sending prayers your way as we speak. And I don't know if nobody knows, or maybe I don't know if mostly everybody hasn't heard me share, but I had open heart surgery because of drinking and using the white witch. And I remember I was in the hospital, and they literally had I had a heart attack in a movie theater. And I was looking at my wife, and my wife's like, I don't feel too good. She's like, yeah, okay, you're always sick. I'm like cry wolf at this point, right? And she started to notice my eyes were turning blue, and and then she told me to go to the hospital, and I didn't say yes because she told me that she didn't believe me, so I wanted to prove her wrong. So I actually went home and I lost my breath again. I don't know if anyone has heart issues or heart disease. And when you have a heart attack, you lose your breath and you feel like you got kicked in the chest. And that's how it felt. I was gasping for air, and I, look over and my cat looks at me, and I never seen my cat lock eyes with me like that before. And I said, okay, I'll go to the hospital. And then I went in the hospital. I had five bypass open heart surgery. They put a balloon pump in to keep me alive. They transferred me from White Plains to New York City with about 12 people because I was a high risk. So if I sat up, the balloon would pop and I'd bleed out. This was an experience that I can't teach you. I can't teach the amount of pain that I went through. All I could do is just share my testimony and my experience with it. And this was because I followed this love affair with alcohol to the gates of insanity, to gates of hell. I was willing to do whatever it takes, and I didn't care about my physical health at all. Man, I was confined in a hospital. I couldn't move. And then they did the operation, and the first thing they do is they cut my lungs. That's funny. And I had to learn how to breathe, how to learn how to walk, how to learn how to sit up. And I remember I was in the hospital bed, confined to the hospital bed, and I was hitting that morphine button every 8 minutes, and because I was in immense pain. I was actually detoxing in the hospital prior to the surgery, and the doctor was like, "What's up with you?" what's going on with you? And this is just my way of life. I've had a previous life, and my previous life demanded a rigorous dishonesty, and I didn't tell the truth, and um, little did they know is that I was suffering. I was going through that. What did they say earlier in the book? Mental and physical torture. I think torture is such a pinpoint, perfect word to describe detoxing, right? Right, Leslie? And I remember, and I was confined in that hospital, and when your back is against the wall and all the chips are down, you lost everything worthwhile in life, and you got, this just came into my mind right now. You know how many people came to visit me in the hospital, Howard? Jamie, Trey, Serene. You know how many people came to visit me in the hospital? No one. Absolutely zero. You know why is that? I was an alcoholic tornado roaring through the lives of other people. I was not a pleasant person to be around. And I'm sitting in that hospital confined to my bed. And who else but to talk to? And that was this power which I came to believe in that moment. I remember I was begging God, please take these shakes away from me. Please release me from these tremens. Please release me from the sweats. Please release me from the feeling of having the flu and freezing cold at the same time. And something happened in that moment. I can't explain it. This is crazy. I can't believe I haven't talked about this in a long time. I actually wrote, if anyone wants this, I wrote and when I was in rehab, I wrote a 22-page experience on my open heart surgery. I don't know why I did, but I did. If anyone wants it, I can email it to you. I came to believe in a power greater than myself, confined in a hospital. Another experience I had was I was missing in action, you could say. And uh, my wife was me and my wife were going through a divorce at that time because I thought she was a problem and I was perfect, right? But it's so crazy how crazy I used to be. You wouldn't recognize me. You would not even recognize me. Thank God I'm not my story today. You okay, buddy? Want to say hi? Come on. Uh, yeah. Yeah, say hi. Oh. What was I saying? And I went MIA, and what happened was I had MRSA staph infection in my nose because of the white witch, and I just kept going down that rabbit hole, and I didn't tell anyone where I was. And then I was in so much pain, so much agony. And I remember the doctor coming in asking me, can we take a piss test and take an alcohol test? And I was like, no, no, I'm so I'm good, right? And yeah, and I was in so much pain, and the doctor came to me like, look, the MRSA is literally about half an inch from your brain. You could die tonight. And I'm literally in this hospital bed crying, just crying, confined in a hospital bed. No one knows where I'm at. No family, no friends, no nothing. And guess who walked in the door? My wife. And when she walked in, I'm like, how'd you find me? Literally, I haven't seen her in like 2 months. We just got the separation process in motion. She had a restraining order on me too, so she was violating the restraining order. But she said she looked right at me. I look like Quasimodo, you know. And she was like, "Oh, Terry," this is exactly what she said. She's like, "Oh, Terry," and she said, she holds my hand and she said, "Do you want to say a prayer together?" And I said, "Yeah." And I've never prayed before in my entire life, ever, you know. And I said this prayer, and something electric happened, something magical happened, something I can't really explain. Just kind of like this little kid jumping. I told you. You want me to change the channel? Ah, there he goes. Another experience happened where I was my heart was racing so much the following day that I don't know, but like a normal heart rate, people have when you work out, you kind of hear your heart rate. With me, it's a little different. My resting heart rate was 120 to 130 at all times. I had an iWatch, which I pawned for alcohol. I miss that iWatch, Howard. Right? And it would wake me up in the middle of the night, say 911, 911, 911, 911. You know? And I remember that morning, and I was going through some of this panic, this crazy panic, and all of a sudden, I was going to AA at that time, still drinking. Who has ever drank and went to meet? I have, everyone can notice that. Oh, I'm sober. No, no, you can just see by your eyes that you're not, right? But we keep loving you, right? I don't say we're not going to keep loving you until you love yourself. I love that. But what I really love to say is we're going to keep loving you until you love someone else. Right? That's what my new thing I like to say now. I'm going to keep loving you until you love someone else, right, Howard? And someone gave me the third step prayer, seventh step prayer, then explained to me this was coming from a different AA, you could say. And thank God that Alcoholics Anonymous is making a comeback in AA. Right? They gave me that prayer, didn't explain it. I didn't understand it, but what I did understand when I was in complete panic mode and terror was I was confined. I had nowhere else to go but God. Similar to what happens when I speak now. I had a script for everything when I used to speak early in recovery on my Zoom and stuff like that. I'd catch fire. I'd have notes everywhere. Make sure that no one would see that because I wanted to sound cool, look cool, all that stuff, right? That was a spirit. That would happen to me was my ego became a very spiritual and it wanted to be a what is it called a Mr. Convention speaker, and I wanted applause, I wanted love, I wanted moments of sublime. I wanted you to. And what happens when you don't give me a standing ovation, Andy? I see you, Andy. I'm looking right at you, Andy. Yeah, I don't want to. I want to clap, bro. It's not a salute. I want a standing ovation right now. And if he doesn't give me a standing ovation, I'm gonna be hurt, threatened, or interfered with right now. No, no. Thank God I wrote inventory on that. He talks a lot. That minion in my head, and what I say to it is, I say, "Hey, thanks for sharing. Next, hey, thanks for sharing. Bye bye." That's the beauty. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about today. I had no idea what I'm going to talk about being confined in the hospital. Right? Um, that it's so scary to not. It's scary to rely on something you don't know, right? That you can't. You want to know. I want to know. Like it says in We Agnostics, I'm a stickler for facts. Like, yeah, Google it. Show me. No, I wanted to be perfect, but I'm not. I love talking about my brokenness recently. I've been talking a lot about my flaws. I'm not a spiritual giant. I'm just another drunk. I'm just a human being walking shoulder to shoulder with you. You know, like I say this all the time. Like, I'm just an instrument to God. God just keeps playing me. I keep getting played. Like, I don't know what happens. I'm actually quite a quiet person. If you see me in person, I like to laugh a lot, but you know, something happens when I speak, and I just give that to God before I do. That makes me 100% totally dependent on something I can't actually explain, but I can experience. And I know that Terry's not talking right now. It's God talking in and through Terry. All right. And then what happened is I did that third step prayer, and it says, take away. This is the only thing that made sense to me. Take away my difficulties. That makes sense to me. That victory over my difficulties may bear witness to those I may help with thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. That made sense to me. And all of a sudden, my heart rate started to slow down. Like I literally came to believe that there was some type of power out there that I couldn't explain, that you can only feel. I mean, look at the promises. They're all experiential. It said, I love it that he was approached by an alcoholic who had known. I've been going down a rabbit hole with this word know, Know lately. Know is an experiential thing. Like I know Andy. I know Andy saluted me. He didn't clap for me right now. I know Howard. I know Bill Swan. I know Paulie. And I know these people, right? I know Charlotte. right? They've known a spiritual experience. I love that word approach. I don't even know how many times it says approach in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm actually supposed to approach you. I mean, if you are someone who has had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, and you're looking for a newcomer, here are the two biggest advices I'm going to give to you right now. You could write these down. Please do. One, pray for someone who is sick and suffering to be put into your path that day. That's the most effective thing I can figure out about picking up someone to work with, is to actually pray for them to be put in your path for that day. I think it says it on page 164, right? What does it say? I don't want to butcher it. So we ask God in our morning meditation what we could do each day for the man who is still sick. Take that prayer, use that prayer as a way of life. And then all of a sudden you start to become that prayer when you pray it, right? And here's the second thing, right? Second thing is when someone you see is new at a meeting, you know, don't give them your phone number. You get their phone number. All right. I don't know about you, but someone gave me their phone number. I never called them. I was too scared to call them. But imagine someone who has known a spiritual experience and you approach someone else. We're supposed to approach these people. Carry the message. The message is the big book. You could be the only, what is it? You could be the only big book that someone reads. Thank God I'm a demonstration of the words that are in this book. Right? And it says, if there is a God, he certainly hasn't done anything for me. And I like how it says towards the end, he said, who are you to say there is no God? He flipped it. He flipped it, and this is a spiritual exercise that I practice with one of Mark Houston's sponsees, is you take all your prejudice towards God and all your antagonism and all your prejudgments and all that stuff, and you write them down, right? So, hey, God is boring, God is judgmental, or you could go on and on and on, right? And what you do is you take 47 and you say, hey, I'm willing to believe that God is fun. What is the opposite of fun? Bored is fun. So yeah, I'm gonna go pray to a God that is fun. And guys, I got a God that is super fun. Like I'd love to have fun, right? I mean, what about judgmental, right? What's the opposite of judgmental? Forgiveness. I'm gonna pray to a God for forgiveness. Hold on. Babe, can we switch for a second? I'm making moves now. Or Howard, how much time do I have?
Yeah, you got about 4 or 5
I
minutes.
lose track of time.
Yeah, I get lost in time also.
4 or 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Okay, cool. I got 5 minutes. Okay, cool. Sorry about that, guys. And also, I mean, there's so many different approaches that you could go towards keeping an open mind. But think about this. This dude was confined in a hospital and literally screamed out loud, if there is a God, he hasn't done anything for me. And then this great thought propped into, you could call it a God thought, you could call it intuition, you could call it inspirational thinking. It's there. It's in every man, woman, and child. Just to explain that previously, right before that on page 55. It is within you, right? And this thought said, who are you to say there is no God? And this dude just tumbled out of bed and had this crazy, vital spiritual experience. This is my last story that I'll talk about. Is I was in rehab in Brooklyn, and confined again, right? And I remember I was 5 days in, and I'm ready to go home. I feel better, look better, all that stuff. When you start to actually physically feel better, the mind takes over and it likes to talk a lot. Howard, he's one of my favorite people, talking about the window of opportunity. Just super quick, right? And then the mind's got some great ideas. It's got some great plans. And my great plan was to go leave rehab and go back to my AA community, which was actually not an AA community. It was more like self-help community at that point, not knocking them, but hey, that's someone taught them that, right? Like, look, I love every single man, woman, and child on planet Earth. I used to judge the shit Ooh, I almost cursed. You saw that. That was a pause moment. All right. You can't self-will that pause, man. That just came out of nowhere. That struck me, right? That's God helping me with my language. And by the way, I was a potty mouth prior to that until someone pulled me aside and explained how I was violating tradition one. And I was like, oh, okay. I asked God to help me with my language prior to speaking to, and it's actually just fluttered away. It's kind of odd. It does like to pop up out of nowhere, but I just got paused. And so yeah, so long story short, these people are, they were approached by people armed with opinions, and they were approached by people armed with opinions, and so on and so forth. Like I don't knock them anymore because they literally brought me to the point of this miracle of identification, and I used to judge that because they weren't doing the big book. Hey, we need those meetings. So those are where the sickest people are at. Where am I supposed to be useful? Where does it say on page 102? Where that's Tony Z's favorite paragraph. Where is it at? Your job now is to be at a place where you be in maximum helpfulness to others. Sounds like the meetings that don't talk about recovery, right? So never hesitate to go anywhere if you could be helpful. And I like to hesitate because I want to listen to some good stuff. I want to listen to Howard E all day, man. Like I would much rather do that than go listen to someone talk about their cat or talk about their dog, right? You should not hesitate to visit the most sordid spot on earth on such an errand. It could be a sordid place. But look, keep on the firing line of life with these motives, and God will keep you unharmed. Right? I'm supposed to go to these places to be what? To help someone who is still sick and still suffering, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. We need these meetings because these were the people that don't like to do the work, like to go. That's me. I didn't like doing the work at all until I was approached by someone who was armed with the facts about himself. So I'm sitting in this rehab, and I call my mom. I say, "Hey, can I live with you?" And she's like, "No, you need to stay there. You're safe and protected." And I looked in the mirror. I remember just looking at myself, similar to a pause moment that just happened now. And I said, "You know what, Mom, I'm lying. And I just want to come home and drink." And I got on my knees and I abandoned myself utterly to this power that I can't explain. I don't know. There is no words that I could actually describe this moment. Uh, Besides what it says on page 14, which are all just super. That's a sneaky description of a spiritual experience, and I see that I'm out of time, and I could go on for another 5 to 10 minutes on this. So I'm just gonna keep you guys on a cliffhanger. I'm looking forward to your shares, right? My name is Terry. I'm an alcoholic, and pew, 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 pew.